the wonderful Wizard of Oz summons you to his personal palace in the Emerald City. Come with me!
The wizard is somebody who's become an effective figure of fixation and cult for the citizens of Oz.
Folks have come to expect that sort of thing. And you gotta give the people what they want.
The future is already here. The future has begun. Why this fourth industrial revolution is so crucial? It's coming like a tsunami. When we look at all the breakthroughs and all the possibilities, opportunities which we have in the coming years, it will be overwhelming to see how fast the change will happen in an exponential speed.
Now, this gentleman here, does this look like a real solid object to you? That is not an illusion, is it? That's a little pocket knife, am I correct?
That looks good.
It's a little pen knife, am I right? You gonna keep it?
Yeah.
Good, you'd never get out of the room. It's a little pen knife, am I right?
It is.
It is. You know why it's called a pen knife?
Size of a pen.
That's a good guess. You made that up, though. In the old days, what?
Sharpening the pens.
Basically, that's what it was. In the old days, they made pens out of feathers. So they had to have a little knife to carve the end of the feather into a quill pen. They called that a pen knife. Thomas Jefferson, our president, invented the first folding pen knife just such as this one. So you see, the act is educational as well as entertaining. Now, when that knife disappears and I reach over here and pull it out of my pocket, you know what most people will say? They'll say that was not magic, that was just sleight of hand. Obviously, the knife went up this sleeve, came out this sleeve, and ended up in your pocket, which is exactly what happened. On the other hand, Haven, if you held my wrist, Haven, and I show you the knife, and you don't take your eyes off my hand, you don't let go of my wrist, and you know the knife is in there. And I open my hand again, and that knife is no longer in there, that knife is gone.
I might pass out.
Yeah, because that wouldn't be sleight of hand at all. That'd be real magic, wouldn't it? Now, if I show you the knife, you don't take your eyes off my hand, and she doesn't let go, and I open the hand, that knife is gone. That's going to be real magic, isn't it? Real magic. That's right. Yeah, no one can ever do that.
What is it, like checkers?
No, really, it's a better game than checkers. You play checkers with your pop?
No. I live in Australia with my mom.
You have no accent.
Yeah, I know. We move a lot.
Backgammon's the oldest game in the world. Archaeologists found sets when they excavated the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia. 5,000 years old. That's older than Jesus Christ.
Did they have dice and stuff?
But theirs weren't made of plastic. Their dice were made of bones.
Cool.
2 players, 2 sides. One is light, one is dark. Walt. Do you want to know a secret?
Well, that could happen if the magician first creates what we call the intricate web of distraction. Don't pay any attention. This is to distract you. This is all just to distract you.
Breaking news, former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted. He is charged with 1 count of making false statements and another of obstruction of justice. Now, this is all related to a 2020 appearance that Comey made in front of the Senate Judiciary to answer questions related to Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Now, Attorney General Pam Bondi posted to social media writing, quote, "No one is above the law. Today's indictment reflects this Department of Justice's commitment to holding those who abuse positions of power, accountable for misleading the American people. We will follow the facts in this case." And just moments ago, former FBI Director James Comey himself posted a video to Instagram sharing his response to the news that he's been indicted. Take a look.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees, and you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant.
Can you see that?
That's really neat.
It looks really neat, doesn't it? It's stupid. See, I have two knives. See, I have a black knife. See, this one's hidden in what we call the palm in position. See, from this side, you can see it, but from this side, you can't. See, it's a principle of magic. Now that you know how it's going to see what happens. You have the black knife hidden over here. When I come over near the white, as long as you hold your hand in a perfectly natural fashion, you have something hidden over here.
A highly unusual military meeting is scheduled to take place next week. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has called hundreds of U.S. generals and admirals from around the world to come to Virginia on Tuesday. According to several officials, the gathering will be held at the military installation in Quantico. The Pentagon has confirmed Pete Hegseth will be addressing military leaders, but would not say what will be discussed.
When it comes over here, you give it a push, then it comes out that way. So you get none of it. It's just, all you have to do is switch them back and forth. It's easy. I'll do it. I'll break it down. I'll tell you what. Here's what we'll do. I'll put the black one over here, the white one over here. Which one is in this hand, Haven?
The white one. The black one.
Stick with your first impression. I'll do it again. Black knife over here.
Yes.
White knife over here. Which knife is in this hand?
The black one.
Maybe it's confusing you.
And for more analysis, CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skenga joins us now. Nicole, good to see you here. So authorities, they're saying the shooter fired indiscriminately at this field office. What can you tell us about the operations there? Who would normally be there? And can you also talk about the level of security at that place?
Yeah, Nancy, this is ICE's Dallas field office, and it's also a small holding facility for migrants, can hold around 100 in terms of capacity. It's home to ICE officials, and there's that holding area for migrants in federal custody. There are also visitors that go there, attorneys, family members, as well as asylum seekers who are going through immigration proceedings that would routinely check in at that facility if they had what's called a notice to appear. Now, we know that the gunman was firing indiscriminately, as you mentioned, at the building, including at a transport van in the Sally Port, and it was there that 3 detainees were shot while they were inside the van. And of course, as we've reported, one has been confirmed deceased while 2 are in critical condition.
I'll get rid of one of them. I'll just use the white one. Okay? You help me with this. Hold my wrist really, really tight. And the black one's over here. You hold this wrist really, really tight. They don't come anywhere near each other. You're holding them. So there's no way I can cheat. Which knife is in this hand?
Black.
Which knife is in this hand?
White.
Guess again. Oh, you can't.
But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
I don't think there's anything funny about it.
I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both.
Which knife is in this hand?
Black one, I guess.
Oh, that's a good guess, but remember what I said about the intricate web of distraction. Guess which knife is in my pocket, Haven?
The black one.
No, the white one.
Just look at the fun those kids are having.
I love these sweet, fruity, colorful tricks. Lemony yellow.
I can't stand it.
Orangey orange. Raspberry red. Grapey purple.
I've just got to get some tricks.
The fun part of this complete breakfast.
I know how I'll get some tricks. Just a little paint and there. Please feed the rabbit tricks.
That's strange. I thought tricks were for kids. But it says right here, please feed the rabbit tricks. Look, he has his bowl and everything. Well, I guess. Here.
Sweet, colorful, fruity tricks.
I knew it. Please don't feed the animals. Tricks are so fruity, so colorful, and so much fun, they're made just for us. Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids.
Okay, rabbit feeding time. Oh, boy.
We begin with a big announcement for the next generation of space exploration. NASA has officially announced its next class of astronauts who will help the agency race toward a return to the moon and perhaps even Mars. The 10-person class includes former engineers, Navy test pilots, and even an undersea medical officer. They were selected from a field of 8,000 applicants, and it's the first ever class to feature more women than men.
There's nothing that embodies the American dream more than the 10 of you today having these spots. I know it was hard work, a lot of effort, a lot of studying, a lot of training for you to win these spots at NASA, but you truly today are living the American dream. And again, congratulations.
This is Cara Danvers with Catco Media, and this is a worldwide exclusive. I'm here with a hero who has been fighting in the shadows. This is Dreamer. My first question, who are you?
I am Dreamer, and I am a descendant of a daughter of Naltor.
So when did you come here from Naltor?
I didn't. I was born here in America. I grew up in an idyllic town
Can't.
where
Someone hacked the system.
humans and aliens lived together in harmony. My mother was Naltorian, but my father was a human.
So you are both human and alien?
Yes. My parents believed that humans and aliens could coexist, and I am living proof of that. But growing up wasn't easy. I am also a trans woman. I'm different, Ms. Danvers, but so is everybody. And I don't know when that became such a bad thing. The greatest gift we can give each other is our authentic selves, and sharing that, sharing our truth is what will make us strong. So here I am. I am both human and alien. And I am a trans woman.
Supergirl. All new episodes Sunday at 8/7 Central on the CW.
Конференц-зале. Всем собраться в конференц-зале, пожалуйста. All hands to the wardroom. All hands to the wardroom, please.
This is the most difficult announcement. As you know, things have not been going well back home. Well, it's gotten worse, a lot worse.
Subversion can be only successful when the initiator, the actor, the agent of subversion has a responsive target. It's a two-way traffic. United States is a receptive target of subversion.
For all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness.
fourth industrial revolution is a combination of technological breakthroughs which will completely change business models, society, economies. Fourth industrial revolution is coming with enormous speed and will change not only what we are doing, but who we are. The world will grow more together in the digital age. We are becoming more interdependent. We will have not less, we will have more globalization. But the question is, how do we master and how do we construct this new type of globalization? I call it globalization 4.0. It's a poison for society. We cannot leave people behind. We have to make everything to ensure social cohesion of a society, because social cohesion is the prerequisite for a democratically functioning country.
Subversion. It's a two-way traffic. You know, I've watched several of those Yuri Bezmenov presentations over the years, and they do seem to get more applicable to so many things as time goes on. This whole idea of subversion and propaganda, somehow the issue of propaganda is on my mind a lot lately. I'm not sure why. No shortage of propaganda subversion going on these days, that's for sure, right? And speaking of which, so a couple of months ago, I got an email from a viewer who said she'd been watching for about a year, and she shared some videos with a pastor friend of hers. And so she shared his response. I guess he just watched one of the videos that she sent, one that I had made many years back in response to Dr. Jason Lyle, who's this creationist astronomer guy. And I don't even know how relevant all of that is, but he wrote back a 7-page PDF response, which in some ways was very similar to a lot of responses I'd seen many, many times over the years, and really wasn't anything really new or surprising. But the weird part about it to me was to be sitting there reading it in 2022. So this is January 2022. You know, he's responding to my video. And how much of it was, him trying to refute that specific video or just the flat earth in general, I guess would be, up for debate. But not having had the chance to actually talk to him or respond, it prompted a lot of thought, because as I kept sitting there thinking about what would I say back to her or to him, I was kind of floored by just somehow, essentially, it was a 7-page response, but he basically summed up my whole position as arguing that A, science has been wrong about evolution, and so B, therefore all science is false, which hopefully should go without saying that is not my position or anything I've ever tried to argue, but that is, was his takeaway, that because evolution was not biblical, then, and so, I was just kind of at a loss. I'm sitting here going, here we are after 2 years of all kinds of things going on in the name of science and follow the science, that has nothing to do with astronomy or rockets or any of this stuff. And so, I was like, if you really don't think there's anything else besides Darwinian evolution that just maybe that, is begging for a little more scrutiny than it has been getting by a lot of people, then, I don't know what to say at this point. Because I know if I had the opportunity to sit down with this pastor, the last thing I'd be trying to do right off the bat would be debate the shape of the earth or, the size of the firmament and any of that stuff. I'd probably have some few basic questions just about what he believes about the gospel. But then if we're going to get into anything that has to do with applying biblical truth to the modern context, to modern life, and anything to do with faith and science, it's probably not going to be that. Because as far as I know, this debate's been going on for how long, and I've yet to meet anybody who's been in the actual position of having to make the decision to get on a rocket ship themselves and put on the spacesuit and strap in for the countdown, or make the choice of whether to put their children on the rocket.
Inside this plane, men are being specially trained for the space age. They are American astronauts in the same state of weightlessness they'll experience in outer space. A rough, rugged business being an astronaut. These men have to be in top physical condition when they face the countdown. And here's a new way to help keep you in shape for the space age. New Post-Count-Off. Post-Count-Off is made with nutritious oats. You can count on it. Post-Count-Off has exciting space news on every package back. Start your day a little bit better with new Post-Count-Off.
3, 2, 1.
You can count on it.
This has appointed Reverend Greg M. Caggianelli as Auxiliary Bishop of the Archdiocese for the Military Services. Bishop-elect Caggianelli is a priest of the Diocese of Venice, Florida, and currently serves as the Vice Rector of St. Vincent Delaware Paul Regional Seminary in Boynton Beach, Florida. The appointment was publicized in Washington, D.C. on February 21, 2025, by Cardinal Christophe Pierre, Apostolic Nuncio to the United States. Father Caggianelli was born on August 2, 1968, in Kingston, New York. He received a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from the University of Michigan, 1990, and a master's degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Dayton, 1994. He studied at St. Vincent Delaware Paul Seminary in Boynton Beach, earning a master's degree in divinity. Bishop-elect Caggianelli also earned a Doctor of Ministry in Homiletics from the Aquinas Institute of Theology in St. Louis, Missouri, 2020. He was ordained to the priesthood on October 25, 2002. The Archdiocese for the Military Services, USA serves U.S. Catholics of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Department of Veterans Affairs, and those in government service outside the United States. It was created by Pope John Paul II to provide the Catholic Church's full range of pastoral ministries and spiritual services to those in the United States Armed Forces, which includes more than 220 installations in 29 countries, patients in 153 VA medical centers, and federal employees serving outside the boundaries of the United States in 134 countries.
Take a look. The singer-rapper designed. Wait a minute now. Now I waited to see this. Now, okay. He designed this Cane's location in Utah. It is very pink. The designs are based on his tattoos, though. There's a Post Malone-themed vending machine as well. And of course, he had to create his own meal, too. Posty says he wanted to design his own Cane's restaurant because he has great childhood memories from some of the Dallas locations. If anything, I'm just going there to take a picture for sure.
Todd, are you awake? Todd. What? I can't sleep. Too excited for National Chicken Finger Day.
Why don't you try counting chicken fingers? That usually works.
It's not working for me, Todd.
Would it help if I told you a story?
Okay.
You know it was a college dream of mine. And got the worst grade in the business planning class, so I had to go commercial fishing in Alaska to raise money for the first Raising Cane's. 27 years ago.
You're old.
Here at Post Malone's Raising Cane's in Midvale, Utah, and Raising Cane's all across the country, we pride ourselves on excellent service and delicious hand-battered chicken fingers cooked to order just for you.
Shrimp all in these waters. They tell me these Vietnams is good shrimp. after we win this war, we take over everything, we can get American shrimpers to come out here and shrimp these waters. We just shrimp all the time, man. So much shrimp out here.
You must be my FNGs.
Morning, sir.
Oh, get your hands down. Do not salute me. There are goddamn snipers all around this area who love to grease an officer. I'm Lieutenant Dan Taylor. Welcome to Fort Platoon.
It had been just a few hours since he'd posted on social media that Ukraine's President Zelensky was a dictator. At the end of an extraordinary day of diplomatic meltdown, the question was, would he repeat the claim again in his evening speech, or would he move on? We got the answer quick enough.
A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast, or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast, because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia.
To an investment conference full of billionaires, and with his own team front row, he again belittled Zelensky as a modestly successful comedian. He framed the war as a transaction in which America was paying huge sums and getting nothing back. And then this, to the alarm of European leaders.
This war is far more important to Europe than it is to us, in that there's a very big, beautiful ocean, a separation.
All of it together, bluntly, hardly suggests that Trump's America is committed to Europe's defence. A double down then, a repetition of his post from hours earlier that Volodymyr Zelensky is a dictator, and not one word of criticism for Vladimir Putin. For Europe, for European governments, this will leave them genuinely bewildered.
Finish your novel yet? It's a lot of homework.
And I thought executive officer was supposed to be a fun job.
Who are you?
Zelensky, sir.
Who is he?
Zelensky's my orderly. Well, rank does have its privileges.
Orderly, huh? I suppose you do stuff like get coffee.
Can do, sir.
Black, no sugar. And a bacon sandwich. You want something? Bacon sandwich!
I give that to Colonel Sink with my compliments.
All that for 2 pages, huh? So that means that's gonna take a while.
Yeah, it is. You want a job?
There it is. I think somebody wishes he were back in charge of Easy Company, Moose.
Are you two just here to gloat?
No, just rub it in a little bit. Moose is gonna lead his first mission as company commander.
Operation Pegasus is set to go off. I thought I might give you the heads up. Pegasus. Yeah. Yeah, great. Everybody know their job? We drilled with the boats all day. Lieutenant Welsh is coming along, and the Canadian engineers.
There's an old saying that says God equals gold, oil, and drugs. Whoever controls those can, in effect, control the way the planet operates. Illegal drugs, yes, are a commodity. They are traded like a commodity. They have, of course, as we've said, that it has their own unique financial characteristics in terms of its off-the-books characteristics, how it boosts cash flows. It's like adding drug cash is like adding steroids to a baseball player.
Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency.
Watchtower involved a series of operations involving 10 special forces and 7 special forces out of Panama, which involved the placement of U.S. Army Green Berets inside the Colombian border to plant radar beacons so that low-level drug flights flying below radar could successfully navigate to land at military airfields in Panama and offload cocaine. There was, at the time, I had probably 250 pages of Watchtower documents, many of which were very heavily redacted. Huge swaths of black magic marker across the pages. We knew that operation was real. Amadeus was an operation I had to become aware of through the investigation of the life of Colonel Albert Vincent Carone, who has, what a resume the guy had. He was a retired detective first grade from NYPD. He was also a full colonel in U.S. Army Reserve Intelligence. He was also a made member of the Genovese crime family in New York, as well as being a lifelong CIA operative and friend of CIA Director Bill Casey, who had attended the christening of Carone's grandson. The Amadeus
Amadeus operations were connected to, among other things, small aircraft flying into local airports throughout New Mexico loaded with cocaine, all under CIA protection.
There's some other tough decisions people have had to make in recent months and years. Difficult conversations. So yeah, cosmology hasn't really been one of them, and yet it was like this could have been written in 2015. If you read this 7-page response, you would have had nothing to tip you off that it was now versus then or 20 years ago. Because it was, it was all the same, mentioning the moon, mocking, just basically mocking conspiracy theory and dismissing it, and the same kind of patronizing thing about you're elevating this to some salvation issue. And every time I tried to write a response, I just ended up going on some rant about what world are you living in? What planet are you on? Haha. And then between January and now, 2 months later, the narrative's already been changed. The movie's switched on to something else. The nonstop movie that played for 2 years was basically the flip of a switch. And so when I think about all the things that I ended up looking into because of this whole biblical cosmology question that I wasn't expecting to encounter, but it kind of got a hold of me, and here we are. But yeah, maybe first we need to talk about this giant media machine and the ability that it has to direct the mass formation on almost the turn of a dime. It is staggering. I mean, and it was just all kind of summed up by watching this clip in the news from a few weeks ago where these Brits are trying to volunteer to go help fight in Ukraine. And of course the media is covering it and showing it wow, what a brave, awesome thing. And it was how many weeks ago were these same people not allowed to walk in the park, or they were being told to be afraid of being too close to grandchildren. But now they're going to go pick up machine guns, and they're going to go fight off the Russians, who somehow now are just incompetent boobs. And Putin is, he's the megalomaniac Trump 2.0 on a world scale. Whatever, but it kind of pulled me back to a lot of stuff that I hadn't really thought about in however many years, just about this entire crazy narrative that has been going on and switching and contradicting itself, and how actually looking into these crazy conspiracy type questions, quote unquote, prompted me to just start looking into just what recorded history even claims happened at all these stages along the way, and try and piece the whole story, the progression together. And the more you look into that, the more things start to jump out as just really not being exactly what you first thought they were. What many people assume, and how it's kind of presented.
First came Russia's Sputnik satellite. Then Yuri Gagarin became the first man to orbit the Earth. Soviet space missions reached for the Moon, Mars, Venus. Now you can see the secret spacecraft the Kremlin kept hidden for a generation. Red Star in Orbit, a special exhibition of Soviet spacecraft and art seen outside Russia for the very first time. Now showing exclusively at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Don't miss it.
We have Yuri Gagarin, who was the first man to supposedly fly through space, and he went around the globe in an hour and 20 minutes and landed in a field after ejecting out of his spherical spacecraft with tiny windows that he could supposedly look out of. But it wasn't until 1971 that they even admitted that he had, supposedly what really happened, that he ejected out and was found in a field by some farmers and told them that he had to go call Moscow. And then, of course, he dies in a training accident. But even the BBC was seeming to question some of the details of his account, and I'd never seen this until recently either.
While we're talking about the ship in flight, there's one small mystery which I think possibly you may be able to clear up for us, but perhaps not. But I'd like to try. On the day when you were making the flight, on the day when Moscow Radio was describing you making the flight, there appeared in our communist newspaper, the Daily Worker, the report that the flight had been made successfully and that the flyer had returned to the Earth. And that report was dated from Moscow the day before. I'm sorry to put this at such length, but this created the impression, of course, that another flight had taken place and you had flown second, and nobody has ever dispelled this yet. Will you do it now?
Могу совершенно компетентно вам заявить, что, очевидно, корреспонденту этой газеты было известно несколько больше, чем тем людям, которые занимаются в нашей стране непосредственно космическими полетами.
Now, I can assure you quite authoritatively that evidently the correspondent of that paper felt he was better informed than the actual people who are in charge of this work in the Soviet Union.
May I have a question?
The interesting thing when you look back is that basically the whole space race narrative and the Cold War have always just been kind of coupled together since the beginning. And you had World War II that kind of put the whole Soviet space program on pause, and then after it, the United States and Russia divided up all the Nazi rocket scientists and chemical scientists and the proto-MK-Ultra guys, all the really fun stuff that the Nazis were doing. Divvied them up, and that just then fueled all this research during the 50s and 60s in all kinds of crazy areas. And so, and the amazing thing to look back and just see how throughout it's this constant like dichotomy of death and destruction, or the potential for death and destruction, just nuclear annihilation. You know, Sputnik flies over, allegedly. Some light in the sky flies over, and something broadcast beeps, and so from that moment on, teach the kids to hide under the desk when the air raid sirens go off, and we're in the nuclear age, and on we go. And then somehow it just keeps flipping back and forth between this great cosmist, transhumanist, reach for the stars kind of message and annihilation and death and everything like that. So the social alchemy that's been going on with all this propaganda and all this media that's been generated, all these launches and stories and news coverages that comprise all this history, so to speak. And no matter what, you look at it all and you can't deny like how propagandistic it all really has been, dealing with war and dealing with essentially globalism and the tension between kind of those two things, like being all intertwined. And so Yuri Bezmenov, of course, is talking about Marxist propaganda and how that is disseminated and used to subvert free societies and things like that. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but you know, I started thinking about like how all the ways in the quote unquote free societies, specifically here in the United States, where we have Hollywood and NASA and New York, and like how much of a lot of the same core messages and the same propaganda has been spread out throughout the world, perhaps in a more creative, openly creative way and diverse way. And just going back to a figure like Arthur C. Clarke, who ostensibly contributed more to, the ideas and thinking that propelled the whole, he's supposedly the first person to think of satellites for communication. So yeah, but it's the same transhumanist message as Cosmism back with Tsiolkovsky, really, at the end, and envisioning sort of the same kind of utopian one world. It's all about we colonize we can't colonize the whole solar system and the galaxy until we've, sort of colonized things down on Earth. But speaking of Arthur C. Clarke, another thing that I kind of went back and looked into with all the recent developments was the follow-up to 2001. 2010, the year we make contact, which of course was not directed by Kubrick like the first one, and so basically just kind of gets ignored by by pretty much everybody, and understandably. But I'd never really paid much attention to it, and I think I'd seen it once or parts of it. So I went back and watched some of that, and then read more because I got curious. I'd always been curious about the ending of 2010. And of course, the whole movie is based on the Russians and the Americans being on this joint mission to go investigate the ship from the first movie, which is out by Jupiter. And there's a new obelisk like floating there. And back on Earth, everything is falling apart between the United States and the Soviet Union. And they're on the brink of nuclear war. So you have all your kind of weird poltergeisty stuff happen with David Bowman from the first movie coming back, appearing as like kind of a space ghost. And one of the amazing parts of the movie is when he actually visits his wife back on Earth, and she's just like watching TV, and he appears to her, through the TV screen. And it's basically the whole question of like, well, is this really David Bowman? Is it? It's super creepy. And he's trying to tell her that something's about to happen, and she, what's going to happen? Something wonderful. Oh, what is that? Of course, Well, so like the monolith goes into Jupiter and starts multiplying and covering the surface of Jupiter with all these monoliths, and then Jupiter kind of transforms and explodes, and everyone on Earth sees it. And then there's two suns at the end of the movie, and they get this message from like the obelisk or the aliens or whatever, saying all these worlds are yours except Europa attempts no landing there. And so I'd always been kind of confused, like, what the heck does Europa have to do with anything, and what is this? Is this supposed to mean something? But if you read I'd never read the books, but if you go read the books, because in the books just explain a lot more even than any of the movies do. But in the third book, it continues on, and you discover that, so Jupiter became a star, and then all the moons around Jupiter became, planets of Jupiter. So it's like it's its own solar system. Oh, and the name of the star is Lucifer. So, I'm sure that's not significant at all. So yeah, orbiting the new Lucifer star is the moon/planet Europa, where the obelisk apparently went down and chose to start the whole process of evolution again. So they didn't want humans going down there and messing it up. And so, yeah, long story short, it's just the same old like ancient aliens and panspermia concept of cosmic evolution. And so in the first movie, David Bowman had his kind of transformative experience. He goes into the monolith and has this big psychedelic thing that lasts forever. And then he becomes the star child, right? So they portray that as the floating fetus, the floating baby in space. But when you look at like the ghost in the TV screen, and then as I read more in the books and stuff, there's other characters who then also become essentially what is, you hear guys like Michio Kaku describe, where we turn into laser beams, or the aliens, when we meet the aliens, they won't be biological, they'll be AI.
Particularly the Los Lunas airport outside of Albuquerque and other facilities, but this also included U.S. military flights like C-130s carrying 2,000 and 3,000 kilos of cocaine at a time, landing on military bases. We were able to connect this, of course, later to the murder of Colonel Jim Sabo at El Toro Marine Air Station in January of 1991, after Sabo had discovered CIA-controlled C-130s landing at his base with 2,000 and 3,000 kilo loads.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
The Pegasus missions had been brought to light by a CIA operative named Dois Chip Tatum, who has not been heard from since probably March or April of 1998. Tatum also produced documentary records of Pegasus, and there were other indicators from Freedom of Information Act requests and so forth that there was in fact an Operation Pegasus, which connected, of course all of these operations connected to then Vice President George Herbert Walker Bush, who had been in charge of so-called drug interdiction operations in the Reagan administrations and the Iran-Contra War.
No, it's hot in here.
Would you please just...
Look, it's him.
America, if you need starters, spark plugs, ball joints, gaskets, camshafts, U-joints, or rocker arms, anything that can be screwed or glued to that car or truck of yours, come see old Ray. Hey, you want a guarantee? I got a guarantee stamped on every box.
He's got really weird hair.
On the back of my neck. But more important is the guarantee that I make to the American worker. I want your truck to help you get the job done. I want your cruiser to get out there safely so you can clean up the streets. And I want your kids to be safe when you take them for a ride.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you, son. The name's Zelensky. I make car parts for the American working man because that's what I am, and that's who I care about.
John Zelensky's the Auto Parts Kid.
Signore, oggi ci parla di quella che avverrà alla fine dei tempi. Dice Gesù, come nei giorni che precedettero il diluvio, mangiavano e bevevano, prendevano moglie e prendevano marito fino al giorno in cui Noè entrò nell'arca e non si accorsero di nulla finché venne il diluvio e travolse tutti. Così dice Gesù. Sempre ci colpisce pensare alle ore che precedono una grande calamità. Tutti sono tranquilli, fanno le cose solite senza rendersi conto che la loro vita sta per essere stravolta.
President Trump, who attended Fordham, a Jesuit university, came face to face today with the first Jesuit pope. The rest is history.
Some of the most persistent questions about Pope Francis concern his time as provincial of the Jesuits in the 1970s, when Argentina had a military government. I've come today to ESMA, to the former torture center where people were held, tortured and then disappeared, to find out why this period in Argentina's history continues to haunt the Pope.
I think that Bergoglio was really close involved in this, and he has a lot of things to say. I think that he knows about the destiny of a lot of people who remain desaparecidos till today, and I think that he should be sit on a courtroom and saying a lot of things, not only for our country but also for the world.
Yo creo que Bergoglio tiene que ser investigado por haber sido obispo y luego cardenal de la Argentina y ahora papa. Cualquier otra persona sería investigado y él es muy difícil que lo sea.
You know, there'll be interdimensional quantum memories of beings that are millions of years old and can travel throughout the galaxy. And so essentially that's what he evolved into, was some sort of digital apparition. And then, there's like how many books? I think there's like 4 or 5 books, maybe more. After that, I kind of stopped reading on. But, yeah, again, this is the guy, you know, who in the early 50s, this is a guy like Tsiolkovsky who wrote some of the most seminal things that were said to spur on, you know, whole generations of real engineers and rocket scientists and satellite manufacturing and all these things. But he was obsessed with the occult. You know, isn't it amazing how, like in a supposedly, you know, purely materialistic evolutionary universe, these occult themes it's like they just can't seem to stay away from it. Towards the end of his life, Arthur C. Clarke was living in Sri Lanka and producing a TV show called, what was it called? Strange Wonders or something? A series called Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World, which was all about your typical paranormal, you know, stuff that now it's kind of your typical paranormal fare. And that was like made in the 70s or 80s. But, you know, if you compare like the basic ideology and the worldviews of someone like Arthur C. Clarke, was British and you know, part of the whole Anglo-American free world side of the space race, Iron Curtain. You know, you compare him with somebody like Nikolai Fedorov and Tsiolkovsky and, you know, what they were all into. It's very interesting. Here's a book I want to get my hands on. The Russian Cosmists by George M. Young. Just the chapter description for the spiritual geography of Russian cosmism. It says this chapter introduces the major themes of Russian cosmism, which include active self-directed human evolution, the need for universal solutions to existential problems, the unity of knowledge and action, religion, art, magic, and science, universal immortality as a human task, and a view of man as a citizen not only of the earth but of the entire cosmos. The major cosmists were polymath thinkers embracing a variety of intellectual disciplines and apparent contradictions. They combined visionary futuristic projects with the defense of traditional culture and institutions. A special feature of cosmism was the attempt to discover scientific equivalents to investigations previously characterized as esoteric or occult. This chapter emphasizes both the Russian and universal character of cosmist thought. So yeah.
Кроме нас в космосе много интеллекта. Это интеллектуальное пространство, это много пространств. Мы частица, и это пространство интеллекта неизвестно, как нас примет или не примет.
And that is cosmism today. Man inextricably bound up in the universe, whether he travels through it or stays on Earth.
Гениальность или интеллект Циолковского, он открыл этот способ толчка, как проникнуть ракетой в космос. Это одна часть Циолковского. А вторая часть, он рассуждал и видел, куда эта ракета понесет человека. Что значит человеческий интеллект в космосе? Когда человек полетел туда, то я ощущал это в то время, что это мой интеллект пошел в космос и смотрит на планету Земля сверху, как Бог.
But speaking of science fiction and the occult, kind of right on the tails of my video from a month ago talking about Francis Bacon and the New Atlantis, a buddy of mine shared with me the story called Somnium, which was by Johannes Kepler, and I had never heard of this either.
Poor Kepler thought that he himself had contributed inadvertently to his mother's arrest. It came about because he had written one of the first works of science fiction. It was intended to explain and popularize science and was called The Somnium, The Dream. He imagined a journey to the moon, with the space travelers standing on the lunar surface, looking up to see, rotating slowly above them, the lovely planet Earth. Part of the basis for the charge of witchcraft was that, in his dream, Kepler used his mother's spells to leave the Earth. But he really believed that one day human beings would launch celestial ships with sails adapted to the breezes of heaven, filled with explorers who, he said, would not fear the vastness of space. He speculated on the mountains, valleys, craters, climate, and possible inhabitants of the moon. Before Kepler, astronomy had little connection with physical reality. But with Kepler came the idea that a physical force moves the planets in their orbits. He was the first to combine a bold imagination with precise measurements to step out into the cosmos. It changed everything.
So Somnium is one of the first quote-unquote science fiction stories written. It's basically about traveling to the moon with the help of demons. And turns out Kepler's mom was a witch, and he spent many years trying to exonerate her because when you compare like the characters in this book with the real characters of himself and his mother, it's almost autobiographical. But yeah, wherever he got the idea from, it's a very peculiar concept to just kind of make up out of nowhere. So yeah, this is around the early 1600s as well. So it was around the same time as Bacon and all that. And after mentioning the demons taking you to the moon, I guess it's at this point where I kind of stop and hear myself talk and I go, yeah, this probably sounds like utter nonsense if you're not in a place of taking the spiritual realm seriously enough to think that maybe that's what's really driving so much of what's going on in the world behind the scenes. And the Bible tells us it is. And for me, like this whole cosmology thing, the most fascinating aspect about it is how it really kind of caused me to stop and think about, well, these are really big and interesting questions and debates, but really the existence of the spiritual realm, beyond just there being the creator and the creation, but this whole hierarchy of angelic and fallen angelic beings, these two hierarchies, and that they are active and involved in the world and have been throughout history. And the Bible speaks of this so plainly But if anything, yeah, it's this whole, every time now when I hear the same kind of dismissive attitude from Christians or pastors or teachers or whoever, but specifically from the Christian side that scoffs at conspiracy, whatever that means. When the Bible is describing things that kind of really go far beyond any human level conspiracy, as it were. And really, what does conspiracy mean? Hopefully it's becoming clearer and clearer that really all it really means, it only really seems to apply to when you're talking about some sort of criminal collusion on the behalf of people in your own government.
It's very easy to take the history and look to the history when you have another perspective a lot of years later. Hindsight. But Bergoglio had a very strong opposition to the Kirchner, and a lot of people in Argentina was very happy with the Kirchner.
En realidad, nosotras nunca nos acercamos a Bergoglio en todos los años de existencia de Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo, que ya llevamos alrededor de 36 años de trabajo. Nunca le pedimos nada, pero la verdad es que él tampoco nunca se acercó y dijo: señoras, ¿qué puedo hacer por ustedes? Esa es la verdad. Podría hacerlo, no creo que no sería de mucha ayuda, porque hay algunas instituciones católicas que recibieron algunos de nuestros nietos. Por supuesto que nuestros nietos ya fueron entregados, en casa de monjas sobre todo. Esas monjas ya distribuyeron los chicos cuando eran chicos. Nuestros nietos ya son hombres y mujeres mayores de edad. No es muy fácil ahora localizar, pero tiene que haber en algún lado algún archivo, alguna constancia de lo que hicieron esas monjas.
Why is Apple so successful? It's not just because they produce great phones. They have a platform. What is essential for the future in terms of leadership capabilities is to develop contextual intelligence. We are living in fast changing systems. But the second dimension of leadership today is the soul. To have a vision, a long-term vision, as we find in this country. We need people, leaders, who have a compass which shows them the way into the future. We have to embrace this change with passion. I know change creates different feelings in different people. Feelings of fear. Sometimes feelings of resistance. But change means opportunities. It's not the robotization of humanity. It's to make this earth a real human place.
But seriously, even if I disregard the Uncle Carl factor, at best I have 60 years left.
How long, huh?
60 only takes me to here. I need to get to here.
What's there?
The earliest estimate of the singularity, when man will be able to transfer his consciousness into machines and achieve immortality.
So you're upset about missing out on becoming some sort of freakish, self-aware robot. Sheldon, are you gonna join us?
Coming!
Or in corporations in your own country. This point now has been brought to such an extreme, insane level where, Russia's getting ready to do false flags. Russia's getting ready to do all kinds of things that were, conspiracy theory only yesterday. And nobody supposedly, what? Yeah. When I hear stuff like that on the mainstream news, I don't even know I don't even know what people are thinking when, you just wrote a 7-page PDF talking, scoffing at moon landings, but it's like other governments, other leaders are capable of atrocious horrific crimes against humanity, right? I mean, that's why we support all kinds of things to supposedly, defend democracy and fight totalitarianism and fight oppression and fight. But, how good is our track record on this side of whatever curtain still exists between Russia and the free world? But overall, so much is happening so fast, it is kind of hard to even keep up with it all and not just kind of lose your mind with all the switching back and forth and the constant recycling of old narratives mixed with new narratives and everything else. But, one thing I will say has become kind of clearer and clearer. I remember at the beginning, and when people would ask you, well, why would they do that? Why would they fake? Why would all these countries all fake the same thing and not call each other out or not? What would be the point of it all? Why fake space? And in some ways, it's like a pretty good beginning answer, at least a partial answer, is just the overview effect. And there's a whole documentary basically talking about the overview effect and how, starting from that fateful day, Christmas Eve, I guess, Apollo 8 mission, when they turned around and looked at the Earth for the first time, and then, the moonrise photo and all that.
They didn't land, but they did circle the moon, and I was watching it on television, and at a certain point, one of the astronauts casually said, "We're going to turn the camera around and show you the Earth." And he did, and that was the first time I had ever seen the planet hanging in space like that, and it was profound.
I think that for me, like for many other people, it was quite a shock. I don't think any of us had any expectations about how it would give us such a different perspective. I think the focus had been, we're going to the stars, we're going to the other planets, and suddenly we look back at ourselves, and it seems to imply a new kind of self-awareness.
One of the astronauts said, when we originally went to the moon, our total focus was on the moon. We weren't thinking about looking back at the Earth. But now that we've done it, that may well have been the most important reason we went.
He imagined a journey to the moon, with the space travelers standing on the lunar surface, looking up to see, rotating slowly above them, the lovely planet Earth.
Many of the great wisdom traditions of the Earth have pointed to what we're calling the overview effect. That is to say, they have realized this unity, this oneness of all life on Earth and of consciousness and awareness.
Within the Western tradition, I think it's quite new and quite shocking because there's been much more of a sense of separation. But if you look at other non-Western cultures, especially in Asia, the emphasis on those has always been on realization that the self and the world are not separate from each other, but that they're really interconnected.
Greetings, friends.
Greetings, whatever the hell you are.
I am a mobile virtual presence device.
Gaze over the majesty of both the Mediterranean Sea and Atlantic Ocean from the fabled Pillars of Hercules, where the mythological Greek hero Hercules smashed through the Atlas Mountains during one of his legendary 12 tasks.
Villagers have been forced to take shelter in whatever crude dwellings they can find, in the ruins of other villages, or here in the remnants of an old Soviet smelting plant.
gave you the idea that you wanted to really be a walking computer?
So I've always been a tech enthusiast, and I always try to be on the cutting edge of technology.
So that drove Brandon Delali to do what some might believe only takes place in a science fiction movie.
It gets inserted into your skin.
A chip, and not the type you eat, but a microchip, has been implanted in Brandon's left hand.
This one is just a little guy right there.
Yeah, I see that right there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So after that was inserted and the swelling went down, I'm able to open up the front and back door to my house. I can walk up to people and have them tap their phone to my hand and instantly transfer my contact information, my portfolio, my COVID vax card.
But Brandon got to thinking, why stop there? He's got 2 hands, right? And plenty of room for more chips.
So I thought, how cool would it be if I could leave my house, no car key, no house key.
So 2 weeks ago, right here in Michigan, Brandon got another chip implanted, this one in his right hand, to unlock and start his Tesla.
It's a perfect backup, something you can never forget, something that doesn't break, something that won't fail you.
And if you think having chips implanted in your body requires a doctor or is costly, well, think again.
The chips themselves are anywhere from between $200 and $300, and the install only ran me about $100 because you can go to a local piercing shop who will obviously agree to do the installation. All the programming and coding of putting the apps on the chip, that's all done by me.
Moving forward, Brandon is thinking about having other chips implanted in his body.
So it'll be inserted right under or right over your breast, and then you can tap your phone to your chest and instantly get temperature readings.
That the individual self and the species as a whole is a manifestation of the larger whole.
When I was above the space station, looking down at the space station, and looking down at the, against the Earth, and seeing this, amazing accomplishment, I was thinking, wow, there was 15 nations that worked together to build this amazing orbital complex in space. And if we can, take these 15 nations and do this amazing accomplishment, imagine what we can do by working together, by setting aside our differences for a common goal to overcome some of the challenges facing our planet.
Seeing the Earth was this profound transformative experience, both for, first for the guys who went 250,000 miles, supposedly all the way to the moon, and then the people who were just a handful of miles up in the alleged space station, which is going to get retired soon. And we got the blue and yellow uniforms that were just because they had extra yellow fabric. I mean, my goodness. I was watching one from like a couple weeks ago. And they were talking to a bunch of school kids in Ohio, and it was like the same little song and dance spiel, answering the same questions they've answered 1,000 times since the 70s. Playing "Here's a Water Bubble." I don't think anybody did a somersault, but it was like, yeah, this show better be on its last legs. So yeah, maybe war, just like the space shuttle show was shut down right before Russia almost came out with their own space shuttles that looked pretty much exactly the same, right before the moon, kind of like the race to the moon was supposed to be all about getting there first so we could have a moon base, because the Russians were going to build a Russian moon base and we couldn't have that. And then we got there and planted a flag and drove a Jeep around, played some golf, and then forgot how to get there. We destroyed all the technology that allowed us to get there. It's a really difficult process to build it back again. But last night I was looking at some videos of this Galactic Star Cruiser hotel, this new Star Wars experience thing down in Florida. It opened like a month ago finally, I guess, but so while all this crazy stuff is going on in Ukraine and the Azov Battalion and all the deep fakery and the cyber warfare that's going to just knock out everything and nobody will know where it's coming from. In the meanwhile, for the past same month, here in America, Star Wars enthusiasts get to experience staying, for all intents and purposes, could be like, 20 stories underground, and they wouldn't care. Because there's no windows. You're essentially in this giant prison block type facility, but, it's cosplay, and it's kind of murder mystery dinner theater kind of element, but in a really sad, it's cringy on so many levels, and I could make fun of it all day, but But the scary part is how it's all about, you get your little wristband when you check in, and that's how you access every door, every little interactive story element, and the droids and the AI system that's in your room, and you interact with it as part of the story. If I have to tell you what this is propaganda for, and what this is conditioning for, and celebrating and translating into things that go into everyone's home, to where we'll just eventually turn everyone's neighborhood into a giant FEMA camp theme park. I mean, it's nuts. Like, look at this place. Like, maybe the quarantine camps in Australia should have decorated with more of a Death Star theme, and people would have never wanted to leave. Subversion. This is some subversion right here. But there's been all kinds of subversion. Economically, the media, the government, the church. It's the world. Why do we ignore everything that the Bible says about how the world and the God of this world, the systems of this world, the kingdoms of this world, is trying to subvert the truth, subvert what God has said and shown in every way he can, from every direction he can. It's been two-way traffic on both sides of all kinds of seemingly simplistic, dichotomous narratives for a long time. That's kind of what he does. It's the whole Masonic black-white checkerboard kind of trick, I guess. I mean, how crazy is this when it's like, this doesn't look like progress to me. This looks terrifying and sad. It's kind of, I think, telling in a lot of ways, like how disconnected we are from so many basic realities of life as humans. And again, the last 2 years have displayed that on levels that I never would have thought possible. But in terms of how disconnected we are from the things that are really supposed to matter, the things that really just even keep us alive, that come from God, and all the junk that we make. And in some ways, space was just about making war cool again. The military-industrial complex and massive massive spending billions of dollars on building missiles and weapons. You got to get the public to buy into that in some way, unless you've gone the full-blown communist 1984 route and you just use slaves. But here in the free world, we use the free enterprise and cooperation between giant corporations and the government, and Disney, to make it all magical and appealing and woven into the American story.
So, the process of demoralization could be stopped right here, both as an expert and as an import. And that takes one step, one very important thing to do. You don't have to expel all the KGB agents from Washington, D.C. The most difficult and at the same time the simplest answer to the subversion is to start it here and even before, by bringing back the society to religion, something that you cannot touch and eat and put on yourself, but something that rules society and makes it move and preserve it. So, the ideas are moving society and keeping mankind as society of human beings, intelligent, moral agents of God. The facts, the truth, the exact knowledge may not. All the sophisticated technology and computers will not prevent society from disintegrating and eventually dying out. Have you ever met a person who would sacrifice his life, freedom, for the truth like that? This is truth. I never met a person who said, this is truth and I'm ready to shoot me. To defend the truth. Right? But millions sacrifice their life, freedom, comfort, everything for things like God, like Jesus Christ. It's an honor. Some martyrs in the Soviet concentration camp died. And they died in peace, unlike those who shouted, "Long live Stalin," knowing perfectly well that he may not live long.
And with all this talk about chips, Brandon hopes the chip for the Tesla gets the attention of you-know-who.
It would make all this worth it if maybe just like a thumbs up from Elon or something, or a simple emoji. I don't know, that'd be pretty cool.
In Oakland County, Ingrid Kelly, Fox 2 News.
Recent violence has been attributed to a group of foreign fighters referred to by locals as the 10 Rings. As you can see, these men are heavily armed and on a mission that could prove fatal to anyone who stands in their way. With no political will or international pressure, there's very little hope for these refugees. Around me, a woman begging for news on her husband who was kidnapped by insurgents, either forced to join their militia, holding them up to anyone who will stop. A child's simple question, where are my mother and father? There's very little hope for these refugees. Refugees who can only wonder who, if anyone, will help.
something which is not material moves society and helps it to survive. And the other way around, the moment we turn into 2 by 2 is 4 and make it a guiding principle of our life, our existence, we die. Even though this is true, and this we cannot prove, we only can feel and have faith in it. So the answer to ideological subversion, strangely enough, is very simple. You don't have to shoot people, you don't have to aim missiles and Pershings and cruise missiles at Andropov's headquarters. You simply have to have faith and prevent subversion. In other words, not to be a victim of subversion. Don't try to be a person who in judo is trying to smash your enemy and being caught by your hand. Don't strike like that. Strike with the power of your spirit and moral superiority. If you don't have that power, it's high time to develop it. And that's the only answer. That's it.
What up, Mark?
Oh, hey, how are you?
You can see me, right?
Yes. Yo, what's up? This is Will I Am. This is the new version of you. We can give them glasses there.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I remember I had a pimple on my face that day. You captured it.
The good thing is it's digital and we can remove it really easily.
Well, how come you didn't remove that?
You can make them do a variety of things. Let's play Simon Says. Raise your eyebrows. Poke out your tongue.
Tell me about growing up in Los Angeles. I was born and raised in Boyle Heights, which is west of East Los Angeles, which is east of Hollywood, just east of downtown. Should it sound exactly like me? Nope. Should it sound a bit robotic? Yes. It should. For my mom. My mom should not be confused.
The brand new synthetic standard domestic profile installed. This is the best thing you will do for your family.
Hello, Joe. I don't want one around the kids. You're taking it back.
I'm not taking it back.
One of these bad boys can do 10 times what the D series can do.
I'm happy with the one I've got.
You brought it into the house and we don't know anything about it.
It's a machine. You claim there are a handful of synthetics who can think and feel.
But pretending to be so much less than what you are.
We can't keep insisting that they are just gadgets. We have made them more than that.
I can't leave you, George.
The human in the machine. The lines are blurring. What the hell are you?
Run! I'm watching you. I'm watching you too, Laura.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good.
The wheels within wheels, with eyes all around. Would you like to see the eyes and the wheels all around, and the eyes all over the wheels? I'll show you those eyes. Here are the wheels with the eyes. The stars, the hosts of heaven, God's creation, the ones, each star has its name, as it says in the scripture. God says, I have named them all. These are the eyes. These are the eyes on the wheels. Our stars. I just can't help but to quote from Isaiah 40:26. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. This is what people have been missing this whole time, and it's been right in front of our faces in the scripture. This is what God was showing Ezekiel. The wheels within the wheels are the belts that surround Earth. NASA calls them the Van Allen belts. These are the invisible belts of magnetic energy within the torus. They keep everything in motion, everything moving like a fine-tuned clock. All the eyes that Ezekiel saw was the stars. All the stars are created by God. They are the luminaries. That is what makes up all the eyes that is being spoken of. What Ezekiel saw was the absolute pure beauty of our home that God created for us. This is what Satan wants you blinded to. This is the absolute magnificence that Satan doesn't want you to see. This is why they mockingly show you that image in Game of Thrones and other movies, the wheels within the wheels over the flat plain earth. They're showing you the truth right in front of your face, and they laugh because you don't understand and you don't see. This is the beauty. This is the sheer absolute beauty of the world that God created, and he called it good. Now that you have eyes to see and ears to hear, now let me tell you this. These wheels that we see, these bands that move like a clock, this is how the sun and the moon do what they do. This explains their movements. It's all about magnetic energy. It's all about the magnetic fields. This is how they're frictionless and how they move in perfect unison. And just as it states in the book of Enoch, through the movement of these wheels, we see how the sun and moon will go through their vaults and rise and return in different areas. This is what the globe has blinded people to, the absolute truth of what God said all along. It has been here the whole time in the scriptures. Instead, we choose to listen to NASA. Instead, we choose to listen to the idiot box. Instead, we choose to listen to scientists, and we heap amongst ourselves teachers that teach us absolute lies to keep us in the dark. When God's been saying the whole time, just look up. Look up at what surrounds you. I made this for you. That's all God wanted to say. Just take a look. I'm here. I am right above you. You can take comfort knowing that when you step outside and gaze up into that starry wonder of God's creation, just know that our Father in heaven is sitting up there right now, staring down at all of us, watching our every move. He knows everything that's going on down here. He has not missed anything. And just know and be comforted by the fact that our Father is right there, and he's been there this whole time. This is something that the world and NASA and the scientists can never take from us, ever. Even the lying powers and signs of Satan that are coming, the lies of the fallen angels and the lies of the world that are going to be ever increasing, will still not rob this from my heart. And they will never rob from me my faith in Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.
What are you doing with the rest of your life?
Catching up on some me time, find God.
My soul loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus. Bless his name. My soul, it loves Jesus. Oh, yes it does. Oh, yes it does. Oh, yeah. My soul, my soul. Over in the midnight hour, my soul, he speaks to my soul, tells me everything is gonna be all right. My soul, it loves Jesus. My soul loves Jesus.